Okay, guys, thanks for joining me. Melissa here. So I had just done a video. I'm posting it. Um, Actually, I think I forgot to upload it. I will upload it about being there for other people, sharing the gospel, being there for other people. But again, I want to talk about marriage and how important marriage is. A lot of times you're going to have people who complain and say, I'm not getting enough of your time and I need more of your time. You want to prioritize when you're married. You want to prioritize it is your husband. You and your husband need as much time as possible, especially when you have kids. Especially when you have kids, because when you have kids, as a mom, you are all day taking care of your kids. It is 24/7, right? It is, early in the morning when they get up, you get up, until they have a nap, and you as a mom need that. You need them to have a nap, and then it's, the rest of the night, and then if you're trying to sleep, I'm thinking toddlers, right? You have to get up with them, right? So, when I was at home with my kids, and I'm thinking at the time I had about three in a trailer, it is so important to take good care of yourself. A lot of times I would sit outside, I would read with a book, watch my kids play outside, um, watch them with a close eye too. I mean, we didn't have a fence, but they knew to stay in the yard, and I would sit out there. I would not leave my kids out there in the yard to play because one, if they got hurt, two, if someone tried to kidnap them, three, just keeping an eye on them because that was my job. And so when you are that busy, you need extra time in your marriage. And when people say, oh, why don't you go out? Why don't you do this? You do need the time out, right? You do need to. For me, it was a lot of church stuff. It was Bible study. I still did not do too much until my kids were older. And then I did more with Bible studies and I did more of time for me, but I kept it kind of conservative, whether it's a bath, whether it's, just going outside and taking a walk. Take time for you. And your husband and you should have plenty of time. And a lot of people think, oh, I don't need a lot of time with my husband. Well, the quality of your marriage is going to really depend on the time you have together. You have to have a lot of time alone, away from everybody. You have to have time out together. You have to have your own time with your own friends. When my kids were older, before we lost the home, I was out with one of my friends quite a bit. And then we went motorcycle riding with her and her boyfriend. And, you have to have that time together because if you don't, the quality of your marriage goes down. And I know when my husband and I were first married, I was working and I was going to hairdressing school. And then I had like three jobs: hairdressing school, yeah, a salon, and then waitressing at the Common Man. So when you have that much going on, that was just me and him. That wasn't even when we had kids. And that still took way, way too much time away from me and him. So, this is why it's so important for a woman to stay home if she can, because she's able to take care of her kids. I'm thinking when they're young, she's able to take care of the home, she's able to take care of herself, and then be refreshed at night when her husband usually comes home. And he needs a break. He needs a place that is his castle, and he can come home at night and he can relax and he can just, unload anything that happened at work. He can have that emotional connection. He can have the support. How to support your husband. I mean, a lot of times you can just say, yeah, that sounds awful, or yeah, I heard you and I can't believe, that they are having you put all the tires away yourself, or having you straighten it out all the time, or whatever it is. Your husband needs time to relax too. He needs a good meal, he needs time with you, he needs time with his wife. So these are a couple of the ways you can support him. Having fun with your husband, that is a huge one. That men need side by side companionship with their wives. They need to do things with you. Go for a bike ride. Our family went to the ocean every single summer, up to the ocean. Um, just that time is so valuable that a man needs. And it's not even your marriage doesn't even need that much money. It really doesn't. The bills are paid, you've got a little bit of a nest, a little bit of a cushion. That's enough. That's enough. We never made money as part of our main, goal in marriage. You have plenty of time to work later. Plenty. So, I still feel, a lot of people talk about saving money, but when your kids are young, I really feel like if you're going to choose, some people have a lot of money so they can save too. But if you're going to choose whether to stay home or whether to have a lot of money, you are always better off to give your kids the time they need when they're young. Because when they're older, it's too late. It's just too late. You can't speak into their life for the most part when they are past a certain age. You've lost your there's a certain amount of influence. So when they're young is where you have to get it in. And your husband is your main priority all the time. We had a crisis where I actually did have to put we had to put our kid first. We had to. If I would have not come over here, for housing, I would have been charged with neglect for a minor. A minor has to have a roof over their head. They have to have certain things, right? So I had a job to do. But there's very few times you put your kids, ahead of your you put them ahead of yourself as far as pushing them out the door, training them for adulthood. That is your job. Many young people live with their parents still. You have failed doing your job if your kids are still living with you. Um, Me, this is just business over here. Until because we had a crisis. I don't see my older son, too much because we're working, and he's just like, hey, I just lost something. When you get home, can you see if you can see that? That's about it. Just, he goes to a different church. He has his own life. My 21-year-old, he pretty much has his own life. He's busy with friends, girls, whatever, he's busy with that. My 18-year-old just passed his driver's permit, and he passed the written part, and he's a little bit of I want to say, not only is he shy, but there's been a little bit of an issue with some of his development, I would say. So he's needed a little extra help. It's not 18 and you're out the door with someone who's, needing a little extra help. So, it's just a matter of, making sure for the most part you and your husband are priority. When my kids were growing up, I would defer to dad. What does dad say? What does dad think? And that's the way you can develop too a lot of your husband's fatherhood, right? What does dad say? You know, and even though sons may be mad for a time at their dad, like mine have been for him leaving and stuff, they still need their dad. They love their dad, right? Deep, deep down. And that's why they're mad because they love their dad. So, you want to, even if I had girls, I think they would be closer to me because they would be girls. But even then, you'd want them to enjoy their dad, right? And spend time with their dad. And even though I have sons who I'm very close to for the most part, they still need their dad. I mean, that's something that you direct them more toward their dad, right? Because they're sons. So, yeah, I think if we had girls and boys, the sons would be closer to dad a little bit more than me, and the girls closer to me. So you want your sons to want to have relationship with their dads all their life because their dad is their dad, and they're never going to have a dad again. So their dads are pretty important in a guy's life. I mean, that's where they learn how to do everything in life is from their dad, right? And one of the things your job is as a mom is to teach your sons to respect women, right? So that's something a mother's supposed to be already have taught her sons to respect women. And um, it's important. It's really important to teach them that in whatever way you need to. So That's pretty much what I got for right now. I did pick up a book about some more stuff with marriage. Something I've always done is I've had books about marriage all over the place in my home. The Excellent Wife, I would recommend by Martha Peace, and I will be recommending more books about marriage. And you have to work at it. Even if the other spouse does not work at it, you have got to work at it as a wife, especially if you're home. That's one of your main jobs is to cultivate relationships when you're home, cultivate the marriage, cultivate relationship with your kids, and then cultivate that relationship with the other spouse when he's working. So a lot of times, before we had dinner in the trailer, I'd be like, we need to wait until dad gets home, right? So I'd have everything ready and we'd wait until dad got home. And as soon as dad got home, when they were little, it'd be like, yay, dad's home, guys, dad's home. And they'd run in the living room and be happy to see their dad. So that's how important it is to take those little things and cultivate dad. We even had this is dad's chair. Don't sit there. This is dad's chair. So it's important for a wife to be able to say, this dad has a certain place in the home that mom cannot replace, a certain place that he deserves respect. Okay, he works all day, he comes home, he needs to rest. When I was younger, my mom did that. She would cultivate my father coming home. Like, your dad needs rest, he needs to take his shoes off. He would, do construction all day long from like 5 in the morning until maybe 4 until 6 at night. And when he got home, he had his chair. The TV was on. He got to eat in front of the TV and then usually fell asleep in front of the TV, ready for work the next day. So that's how important, it was to make sure dad was treated a little differently. And even on the weekends, my mother went to the bow and arrow shoots with my dad. So, even if there's something that you're not really interested in as a wife, do it with your husband anyways. I'll never forget this story that a pastor used to say where this couple was together for a long time and people wondered why were they together a lot? What was it about them? They just spent time together. The guy would usually be working on his car, his wife would be sitting there just hanging out with him while he worked on his car. That's how important time is in a relationship. You got to have time just to hang out and do nothing. And so we're living in a world right now where everyone's busy, everyone's an individual, everyone's got their own life, and we're not doing enough, I guess, I would say, in my opinion, to keep families together. And, we really need to think about what does the next generation have, because we're seeing the next generation that doesn't know what marriage means. They don't stay together. They're married at 19, divorced at 20, and then they're on to 3, 4 marriages, right? So, you've got to be the ones to be like, this is what marriage is. Even if your husband is not on board with you, we're going to pass the baton to you. This is what it looks like. So, I have one son who got married and looks like the military benefits ran out. So, she ran away. And then I have another one who is in a serious relationship. And um, so he's going through the motions of, what exactly is this going to look like? I'm not doing prenups because that is a way out of marriage a lot of times. And so we're talking about this a lot. We're talking a lot about different things that he is thinking about and how to be that good husband and how to be a good father and how to be, what he wants, what his standards are, how many kids do they want, da 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 da. So, you gotta have older people to help you along in this, whether it's your own family and your own parents, or whether it's a couple in church, or whether it's another couple that you admire. You need other couples around you to show support to your marriage too. Like, to be like, oh, when I hang around with these people, my marriage is much healthier. Like when me and my husband were motorcycle riding with a friend and her boyfriend, it was a healthy thing to do. Then you go somewhere else and you have a certain influence and it doesn't help your marriage. It tears it down, it undermines it. So you want people around you who will uplift your marriage. And that is why community is really important, especially I think in a church. You're going to have a community where people are like, this is our marriage, and especially older people, and this is how we made it. You know, you got to work at it. So that's what I got for now, guys. Thanks for joining me.